Welcome to Paul Lawson Chats, a podcast for helpers. In each episode, we'll hear stories from folks from various companies and organizations who are making a real difference by bringing positive change and infusing radical good into their workplaces, communities, and world. All right, hey all, it's Paul. I am here today with, oh my gosh, one of my new, just incredible friends in my life. Somebody who just came crashing into my life like the Kool-Aid man. This was back in September of 2024, I believe, is when we first met. Dino Tripodis, who is a former radio host of Sunny 95 here in Columbus. Dino and Stacy. Just a little local legend here, and a comedian. And to me, one of the main reasons he's on the podcast today, he is the Ohio ambassador for Man Therapy, which is an incredible nonprofit that does mental health focus for men. So, okay, intro. How are you doing, Dino?
I'm very well. Yeah, I'm glad that our worlds did collide on that lovely afternoon in September, because it struck up a really cool friendship. And normally we're sitting across from each other at Crimson Cup having a cup of coffee, but got my coffee.
Virtual coffee today.
What's your mug?
My mug, this is what I got as an emergency mug in Myrtle Beach. Let's see if my camera can focus on it. This is I got because all the mugs at the condo we were staying in were like shot glasses. And that's not how I drink my coffee. No. So I had to go to the local gift store as fast as I could and get a good sized mug. What's on your mug?
This is one of my favorite mugs. These are all banned books, and when you put the hot liquid in here, they're all blacked out. You see, it's blacked out on the top there because the coffee's not that high.
Yes.
But down below, once the coffee goes in, the hot beverage goes in, the banned books reveal themselves.
I love that.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. You got One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Naked Lunch, Native Son, The Jungle. I always like to kind of quiz myself and see if I can remember the authors.
Yes.
Well, because it's just the title of the books.
I love that.
Yeah,
that is a very cool mug. That's great. Awesome. That's something I should start doing too, is having everybody like, hey, get your mug that has a story behind it, and bring it on the podcast.
A lot of stories and a lot of my mugs.
That's why our wall is covered in mugs, and I can tell you a story about probably half of them.
Yeah, right? So many of them.
I know.
And that's why you can't it's time to clear out my closet and get the mugs out. And
Right. I mean, we keep our Christmas mugs out because so many of those have stories.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Not a hoarder, though. Not a hoarder.
I'm a collector. This is different. Collector. You and I met at Obie's Breakfast Club, which is a crazy social gathering connection event thing that happens here in Columbus with former OSU Buckeye Obie Stillwell. And that was right after you had joined Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation and started representing Man Therapy with them. That was right after you started. And then you and I just sort of collided. Our worlds did. Mm-hmm. And you and I just hit it off. And again, like you said earlier, we've been grabbing coffee every month since then, and really just struck up a fantastic friendship. And I think just something that where your mission, and this is where I want to explore today. You have such an amazing journey about how you landed where you're at today, working with Man Therapy and diving into the world of mental health for men. And I want to explore that. I want to give people a chance to get to know you and your story the way that I've learned it. And I've just become the biggest Dino fan because of your authenticity and the gifts that you bring to the world. And I want to give you a platform here too, with other folks in my industry being construction, which is a male-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. So we need folks to be able to model authenticity and maybe throw some humor in the mix too. And you do both. So talk to me a little bit about what's your background? How did you and also how did you end up in radio too?
Okay. First of all, thank you. Those are very kind words. I don't know if I can live up to all of that praise, but it's nice to hear. Thank you. It's a good way to start my day. You're juicing me up with self-esteem. I appreciate it.
I mean, everywhere.
Which answer do you want first? How I got into radio or how I got into man therapy?
You know what, you'll probably end up getting into that from there. So give me a little bit of your backstory.
The backstory with radio was, I always tell people this, that in regards to the many professions that I've had over the course of my crowded life, because I've managed to squeeze in quite a few things over the decades. I was doing stand-up. I was a comic and based out of Columbus, Ohio at the time. And the morning show at that particular time loved having comedians in. And I was working at the Funny Bone doing a whole week. I was home and they always had the Funny Bone comics in. And I came in and the guy, Big Mike Fiss, said, "Hey, so you're local?" Well, he goes, "Would you like to come in when you're just hanging out at home and not do anything? Just come in and hang out with us." I said, "Sure." So I would go in and I would do these little bits when I came home. And then we started to do these bits from the road. Dino's in Little Rock, Arkansas. Let's check in with him. Dino's in Omaha, Nebraska. Let's check in with him. These little segments that were weekly got to be kind of popular. Flash forward to me moving to Los Angeles. I still kept doing the bits, and Mike and his partner Jane had left. There was a new guy in there who was actually an old guy, a guy that had been there for years, Bob Simpson. He was back, and they were looking to build a show around Bob Simpson and Company. And they asked me when I was living in Los Angeles if I wanted to come and be his co-host or part of the company. It was Bob Simpson and Company, if you will. And I said no like 3 times. A lot of other things that I won't bore you with transpired, and I ended up taking the gig and moving back in September of '94, thinking, this is going to be one of those situations where it's fun when your cousin comes to visit every once in a while, but when he moves in and he's there every day, it might get a little tiresome. And that's what I thought.
Overstaying the welcome.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And we did this great show. It was Bob Simpson, myself, Stacey McKay, Clark Donnelly. Stacey and Clark were doing news. We had a producer, and I probably put so much creative energy into doing that program with bits and so forth. But the show never took. A year later, they fired my friend, and Stacey and I were there filling in from October till December. And I remember saying it very clearly: let's pretend like every show is our last one and just have fun, because they're going to get a new morning show in January of '96. And we did that. The ratings started to go up. And in '96, when I thought I was getting my walking papers and heading back to Los Angeles, they offered us the morning show. We signed a 4-year contract and another 4-year contract after that. And after that, to the total of 24 years before it was all said and done. The first time. Then we parted ways in 2018, and then they asked me to come back in 21. And then in 24 of last year, well, we all got canned. For various reasons. And I harbor no ill will. It's the nature of the business.
Sure.
Anybody that's in radio that might be listening to this knows that initially a 24-year run at the same station on the same show is a very, very small percentage. So I feel blessed and that I had that opportunity. So
incredible. Well, it's like you and I'd love to meet Stacey someday. I think just that you guys were able to be kind of an anchor here in Columbus for so long, and then now you're taking that what you gave to Columbus, you're now turning into a whole other. You've parlayed that into a new mission, and I love that. So tell me a little bit too. So I want to get into how you got connected to man therapy. I want to talk about what man therapy is for anybody who doesn't know. I know for the folks who've heard me present and speak here in Columbus, I've shown the Rich Mahogany videos a couple times as part of the funny of the talk. Again, when I get out and talk about mental health and suicide prevention in the construction industry, usually it's very emotional and it can kind of be stuffy and full of data. And I am always like, now you have to have some funny hooks in there. You have to have something.
Right.
And so to me, a Rich Mahogany video, which if you guys don't know that, we'll get into that in a second, and we'll kind of parlay into like what man therapy is and what they've created. But I'd use man therapy as the funny of the presentation.
Great.
So to me, okay, so you're comedian and you are a longtime radio host here with an incredible voice. And so how did that parlay into you becoming an ambassador for Man Therapy?
You can credit the podcast that I do as well, which,
Mhm.
by the way, you'll be on in a couple of weeks. Looking
Yeah,
forward to that. Whiskey Business.
absolutely. Hmm.
Mutual friend of ours who you just recently met, Sharon Saya,
Hmm.
was pushing a guest for the podcast. Executive director of Ohio Suicide Prevention
Hmm.
Foundation, Tony Coder,
Yep.
and he wanted to push Man Therapy, which Ohio adopted in February of 2024, I believe. And she kind of told me a little bit about the program, how it was using humor to reach men, to help them address and deal with the stigma of mental health,
Hmm.
kind of a more passive way to get them in there and look at things. So I checked it out and I said, yeah, let's have Tony on. Well, Tony one was an amazing guest. The
Hmm.
conversation took, as is the case with Whiskey Business, sometimes, you know, I don't have that much of an agenda when I have a guest because I like to discover and explore things as they
Yep.
happen.
For
And
sure.
one of the things that I did do in respect to Man Therapy, I watched all the Rich Mahogany videos, and I also took the head inspection test that they offer, which is a series of questions, and if you answer them honestly, which you should, I don't understand why people when people take tests like that, why they would lie to themselves. It's kind of like when you go and you're going to get blood work on next Tuesday, and
You
you know
can't
all
lie
of a
about
sudden you
that.
start eating right and not drinking,
Right,
doing
right,
everything
right, right,
for your
right.
blood. No, you want to know where your blood really is, not
Yeah.
not this fake number that you
Don't
tried to.
contrive this. That's not serving
Yeah,
you.
it's not
Yeah,
serving you at
right.
all.
Yeah.
And I took the test and we discussed my results of the test. And then we also got involved in a very open conversation about my depression. I admitted on the podcast and to everybody that, I have suffered from depression clinically since 1996 and have dealt with my demons and my battles over the years. So that
Hmm.
conversation became very frank and very honest. Tony told stories about him and his family, and his son, and it was just an amazing set of circumstances that transpired that evening. And we were on the front porch as I was saying goodbye to him. He goes, "Hey, would you consider being an ambassador for Man Therapy?" And I go, "What would that entail?" He goes, "I got guys
Yeah.
that could do the facts and the figures all day long, but I don't have anybody who could tell stories like you tell stories."
Mm.
And I said, "Sure, let's go for it." And we came to agreements and arrangements as to what it would be. And I am an ambassador for Man Therapy through people like yourself, who I've been able to chat with and get feedback from and ideas. I've tried to evolve it into a combination of things, taking my ability to tell a story. And I figured, well, if you're going to tell a story, tell an honest story.
Yeah.
And why not my story? So what I'm doing now is combining all the elements of Man Therapy, which is not clinical, medical, it's comical. It's a humorous way to get guys to get in there. And humor, as I've told you, and I've told many, I think humor, like water, always finds a way in if you let it. You can let humor can get in there in various ways, shapes, and forms. So I combine the message of what Man Therapy has to offer, and now I've started to include what I call one man's therapy or a man's therapy, which is my story as well,
Yes.
and kind of intertwine the two. So while speaking about Man Therapy and everything that it has to offer, which is a lot
Hmm.
of humor and fun ways to get yourself checked out, I
Yeah.
also incorporate my story, which also involves a lot of serious stuff and a lot of honest stuff, but also I weave in the humor as well because I try to find the humor in everything. It's not always
Yeah.
possible, but when it is, um, I find that it alleviates the seriousness of the conversation just a little
Hmm.
bit, but doesn't take away from it, so we lose the message. Does that make any
That's right.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, I think and that's life, right? I mean, that's life. When you summarize life, and it is like a series of ups and downs, and serious and scary times, and ridiculous, hilarious times, and it's like so you have to have that,
Hmm.
So, but I think that's part of it and that's what makes Man Therapy and what they contribute to the mission so potent is that typically when we talk about mental health and suicide prevention, it tends to be serious. It tends to go towards the serious side of tone. And to me, that's missing out on another essential part of life, which is humor and levity. And so it's what it is it's completing, to me, the pie of what's been missing in this message, and that is humor. And that's why I think what you bring to the table and what Man Therapy brings to the table should be completely essential. Like, and I love that Tony had the he had the feel or whatever it was to just like say, no, this is my guy. This is my guy for this.
But he called me he called me his unicorn.
That's right.
He called me his unicorn, which I find very flattering. But I don't consider myself to be a mythical creature. Tony Coder's pretty amazing.
Yes,
as I've told you, and we've agreed, the man is tireless in his mission. Mm-hmm. We're up against it here in the months to come with fundings and budgets and whatnot. But he is focused and toes the line and mm-hmm. is doing everything he can to make a difference. And I'm flattered that he thinks that in some small way that I can, that you can, because he's helped you, he's helped me, and we have done our best to help people as well. But humor, man, humor's been my life preserver in so many ways. Prior to Man Therapy, just in life,
If I get out on job sites in construction, that's what guys they're looking for. Is it's like they almost are like desperate to find humor in something. Like they want to take the serious conversation or something, and they want to find some humor in it. So rather than having to make them look for it and throw that out there, I'm going to meet them where they're at.
Right.
And I want to throw out humor anyway, because that's what people respond to.
I love this niche that you have found, and wow. And when you started to mine that, you just realized that this was so needed for so long. And I'm thrilled that the people that own these businesses, the construction businesses you speak to, are also recognizing it and developing programs. But I'm glad that you're there to help facilitate it and kind of guide them to where they need to be, because I'm sure this is our battle with people in general, but since mm-hmm. we're focusing on men at the moment, it's getting them to admit that it's okay not to be okay. We say that all the time. There's an Ethiopian proverb that says, he who conceals his disease cannot expect to be cured.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
What are men known for other than trying to conceal it?
Exactly.
Like, I don't need to go to the doctor.
I don't need to
talk to me. Dad never did.
I'm fine. Yeah,
I'm fine.
Press this off.
That's right. Until they're shown. Yeah. Until folks are shown, or until men are shown, like, hey, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to go get help. In fact, it's a stronger thing to do, to go get help and talk to somebody. Right. But it has to be modeled for them. And so to me, having folks like you and me out there as like, we're not clinical, but like in the advocacy world, that's what we're diving into head first. Exactly. Exactly. And I love that. So tell me a little bit about so with Man Therapy, and this is stuff that I don't know. I know basically about Man Therapy, and I know the resources that it provides and the videos. And for those listening, Rich Mahogany is a character that they created who is just hilarious, who's got a little bit of a Ron Burgundy vibe.
And they also from Parks and Recreation.
Nick Offerman. It's Ron Swanson. Yeah. It's like, take Ron Swanson and Ron Burgundy and throw them together. Yeah. And the fact that they're both named Ron is very fitting and fine. That makes sense to me. But they basically created these mental health videos that this guy narrates and talks about, and they are hilarious. I remember the one that I kept throwing in was him doing breathing exercises. And on exhale, he says the F word, and it is just glorious. And it is an instant, the tension in the room when I share that video, the tension just drops.
It's because it's so unexpected. It's not what you would expect to see in a help you video. And the fact that it gets right to the core and the honesty of it with that particular scene.
Yes.
I said, okay. I saw that one. I go, I'm in. I'm in.
So, and that's what he does. On exhale of a breathing exercise, he just says, fuck. And then it's censored. It's censored,
Yeah.
but it's hilarious. And to me, that's just one of their videos. They have a bunch of videos, but that's their branding too. So their posters are like that, their messaging, their videos, like all of that. And then also their website is a landing page that people can go to get the head inspection, which is kind of like a check yourself. You know, you did it. You talked about your results with Tony, you know, on your podcast. And I think it's an invite for men to like go and get started somewhere, and this is a way to do that. So Man Therapy, tell me where. So it's based out of the University of Maryland, right?
Our particular part of it is, yes, but it's originated in Colorado.
Oh, that's right, it originated in Colorado.
Colorado. And we are working with the University of Maryland as well. And Ohio adopted it, and you know, I can't tell you all the particulars about the funds and the grants and the so forth
and all of that, and
all
how
I
it's
know.
going.
You know, tell me the minimum. That's what I always tell people. Tell me what I need to know, and tell me when I need to know something else. I know that Ohio adopted it in 2024, and it had almost immediate success and has continued to grow. Obviously, like anything that's positive in this field of assistance and help, we want to grow it more. We want to get the message out there more. We want more men and women. I always say I want women to go to mantherapy.org as well, because women can sense problems with their men sometimes before the men can. You know, they have that uncanny sense to know that something's wrong. And I know that that there are good women out there that would go to Man Therapy, and maybe they can convince their significant other to say, "Hey, check this out.
Go check this out."
Make you laugh, and it might also make you think a little bit. You know.
I think that's a good note, because I know some companies have, you know, looked at Man Therapy and thought, wow, this is very like, it's man focused, and we're trying to put out resources that are good for everybody. And I hear the only push, and I get what they're saying, but the pushback that I would give on that a little bit is like, especially in the construction industry, it's a male issue around mental health. Like the suicide rate is extremely high amongst men. So, and the other thing that I found out too is that with Man Therapy, a lot of the folks who come and check it out for the first time are like spouses going and looking at it. So to me, as a resource, it's a win-win. It's branded and focused and laser focused on men, but it's a benefit for the whole family if they can get dad or grandpa or your brother to go check it out, you know, and do something about their mental health. So to me, it's definitely something that should be utilized and used. And we have the license for it in Ohio, and I know we're still exploring all the different ways that we can use it. But I know right now, with the stuff that's currently out there, companies can go use it right now.
Yeah, they can go right to mantherapy.org and start checking it out. And like you mentioned earlier, it's not clinical, it's not medical, but there are landing pages, that there are resources if you want to take that next step and say, hey, as a result of checking out Man Therapy and like coming to grips with some truth about myself, take the head inspection test. You know, I took it. I scored okay, but there was definitely room for improvement. Well, hell, there's room for improvement every single day in my life.
Yeah.
On my next presentation, which I have smaller presentations and larger ones. When there's larger presentations, I include Man Therapy and One Man's Therapy, mine.
Yes.
But on the smaller ones, I kind of focus on Man Therapy itself. And like in the next one I'm going to do, I'm actually going to take the head inspection test live and in person.
Yeah. Very cool.
And you know, shout out the questions and say, well, I'm answering these questions. You guys think about these questions. And
I love that.
And answer them honestly to yourself, because I know if I take that test every week, I guarantee you, if I answer those questions honestly, I'm going to score differently every week. It's just the nature of this.
The ebbs and flows, and the highs and lows of life.
Of what is mental health and depression. And there are ebbs and flows. I told you over coffee. Every day, brother, I get up in the morning and I measure the weight, not the physical weight, the emotional weight. Where am I at? And what have I got to do to get into that range where I'm functional and productive and, you know, able to do what I want to do. And if I'm up here high in what I call the risk area, the red zone, you know, what have I got to do to bring it back down to someplace acceptable. 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. You want to be honest? I can't tell you the last time I was a 1, but I've had days where I've been 2s and 3s and 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
You know,
it can still kind of create some
2s and 3s are great.
Yeah.
You know, one is perfect. And, you know, I always say strive for perfection and hope that you never actually achieve it. Because if you do, then you got no place to go.
That's good.
Right? Achieve it completely, because if you do, oh, wow, I'm perfect. Now what?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I love that. That's such a good adage. And I think I love the way that, and the fact that you would, I love the idea of you going in and presenting, having that part of your presentation, you're modeling vulnerability built right into it. Like, and people need to see it.
I spoke yesterday at the Crawford Marion Adam board and Marion County Suicide Prevention. And I think that was one of the things that was mentioned. You talk about vulnerability because that was a longer presentation, and I got to present both man therapy and one man's therapy. And that was one of the comments that came out of the discussion was the vulnerability, the honesty. And, you know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a counselor. You know, I'm just a guy telling a story. But as a result of telling that story, there might be bits and pieces of it that are your story or something that triggers something else in somebody else. They're like, oh, wow. And this guy's actually talking about it. If he can stand up there, be vulnerable, and talk about it, maybe at the very least I can do is admit that I've got some issues and need to deal with them.
That's right.
Maybe I don't need to get in front of 200 people and talk about them, but maybe I can find one person to talk to and get it out there and start the process, right?
That's right. That's powerful. It's so powerful. And I think the more crowds that you get in front of and model that, you're going to have those folks where their first step is to go up and talk to you afterwards and be like, okay, you just did this in front of a room of 150 or 200 people. I'm going to do this now for myself in front of one person, and that's you.
And I would say applause.
Yes. Absolutely. Badass. Good job, man. And I would say, like, that's why, to me, I love what you've done with, you've taken the message of man therapy, but then you're like, how does Dino present this? And you created one man's therapy, which I want to explore that a little bit, because I think I'm such an advocate for, like, the power of vulnerability, especially when talking about mental health with men. That's really, that's the platform. So authenticity, vulnerability, and just being completely 100% real. That's the connection. That's what people are looking for. That's why, like, for me, I'm not from construction. I'm not a tradesman. I don't know jack about most of the stuff that those guys are excellent at.
But you look good in a hard hat and a vest. I got to be honest.
And I've got a hell of a flannel collection.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
I'm telling you.
I mean, I've got that going, but, like, I mean, I can, get up in front of a room of construction workers and talk about this because they are hungry for vulnerability and connection, and I think that's true for any of these industries that are trying to impact men. So talk to me about one man's therapy, and, like, when you go through that, can you give me a kind of a high level sort of an overview of the story in your life that goes into that part of the presentation?
What it is basically is I'm 66 years of age, and I would have thought in my 30s, by the time I hit 50, I would have had all my stuff figured out in life, right? I mean, you think, half a century old, and this, but no, man, it's the conversation I have about one man's therapy is kind of it continues to mold and shift. What I found very interesting in the few presentations that I've done that have included one man's therapy is, as I'm telling the story, I'm also making other discoveries as well as a result of relaying it. Does that make any sense? It's
totally
like
does.
While I'm talking and while I'm writing it, it's just like other things will start to come back into my head that I maybe have forgotten. I'm basically trying to understand and figure out the how and the why. And the how and the why are questions that may never get completely answered, but the fact that I am on this path and trying to figure them out. I'll give you a perfect example. A large part of it is about, everyone says, well, where does, where do the mental health issues start? Well, that could be a myriad of things. One of them, we talk about childhood trauma that, that starts young and doesn't really manifest itself until it starts to sneak in there and grab at you older. I had a troublesome relationship with my father, and I never thought twice about it. I actually, for years, I thought he did me a favor by not being around as much as he wasn't around. And in some ways, I think he did, because I wasn't subjected to a lot of things that happened when I was younger. But that's not necessarily true. So one man's therapy is kind of that journey as to how things have affected me through the years, how decisions were made in my life that I had no control over, but just had to deal and adapt with, and how I deal with those things now, and the new information that comes in. It was only in the last 10 years that I became acquainted with information that my father most likely had mental health issues. But you're talking about a stoic Greek man from an island who came to America and then went back to Greece. And if he had issues, you know how they dealt with things back then. There weren't issues. That was just who James was. But now I'm learning, when I hear that, your father had this issue and that issue, all of a sudden things start to make a little more sense, and they start to explain themselves a little bit as to why there were so many different men in my life that was one man. There wasn't, the different sides of this guy you call dad, father, somebody who inherently you loved, but also, God damn, feared, and on any given day weren't sure as to who you were going to get as that man. I'm amazed as I open myself up to all that, how much I start to figure things out. And I think those relationships, when I share them and I'm very honest about them and how they were, I'm sure there are people that have gone through far, far worse things in their lives, but are they sharing those things, or are they keeping them buried? So if I tell my story, does that help? Does that help you shovel some of the dirt off of your trauma and your secret, and open it up a little bit so you can breathe and say it's okay to deal with that? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But by sharing it, I hope that somebody takes it and uses it and says, if you can be honest, then I can be honest.
Yes. When I've heard the presentation once when you gave it to Delaware County Suicide Prevention Coalition. To me, I even just when you're in the middle of sharing this, I was just like, oh my gosh, this message needs to get out there. This talk needs to get out there, because to me, it is, when you're talking about your dad and everything that you have processed and unraveled with him, and how that had an impact on you, and seeing that this guy, and this is true for a lot of us. And when I go out and talk to construction workers, a lot of them say, well, Dad was just that way. He was just that way. He was just that way. That's just how he was. That's just how he was. And I guess that's how I have to be too. To me, it's when we take our, either a mental illness or our mental health struggles, and it becomes so core to our identity that it becomes like, well, this is just who we are, versus like, no, like, just because, like, to be able to look at either mental illness or our mental health struggles and see it as something that we can work on, just like I have sciatica, or I have, for me, cancer. There's treatment for that. There are doctors that I can visit. There are people out there that know how to process this, that can help you, so that you don't have to live with that every day. You don't have to.
Yeah, I could fall on the cliches. My father never loved me. No, that's not true.
Sure.
I hate my father because of this. No, I don't. I think the message is, I am still trying to understand my father.
Yeah.
And that's a difference. There's a difference between trying to understand somebody and just, speaking of everything that he was or wasn't as a dad.
Yeah.
There's a process there. I mean, he passed away. It'll be 18 years this November, and I'm still amazed at how some of those things are still unresolved as I still try to figure things out. My sister and I, we always we from a medical standpoint, we always laugh that, you know, as we've gotten older, we both have developed these side by side situations with our health, and we know everything about my mother's side of the family and their health, but my father's side of the family is kind of a mystery. So we're like,
Yeah.
was this in dad's DNA? You know, like we don't know. We don't know. You know,
Right.
you
What
know,
else can we stem?
Yeah.
What else is there?
yeah, my sister and I have gotten a thyroid issue at the same time. In later in years, we're about 4 years apart. We both had an eczema situation that at the same time, and we both had a swelling in the left leg at the same. It's like it's kind of comical in a way. We're
Which
like,
parent are we thinking for about this one?
Yeah, it's not from mom's side of the family. It's got to be from dad's side of the family. Was there a history of it? We don't know.
We don't know.
Don't know. So it's like, you know, ailment of the week.
Absolutely, yes. I feel like whenever my family gets together, basically the beginning part of the conversation for whenever we get together is, what ailment have we had in the last couple weeks?
Right.
You know, and like get out there and be like, well, I've just had this spot on my neck, and and the doctor said, I don't know what it is. And that's just like, it becomes a thing, you know, and you talk about, it's like, that becomes like a through line for everybody, is like, what ailment do they have right now? You know, I don't know. To me, it's like, what I love about like your focus on, in one man's therapy, and that's why I think when I listened to it, I was just like, oh my gosh, I am hearing too, the number of guys that I talk to who have so much unresolved stuff from their dad. Like, oh man, it's so that's why, to me, like, I think your presentation and what you put together is so insanely powerful, and I want more and more and more and more and more people to hear it. So
well, I am developing more and more and more. You know, you kind of saw the beta version on that day in Delaware, and since then I've refined it.
Sure.
We were texting yesterday, and he said, how'd it go? And I said, I felt like I was in the zone yesterday. I was zeroing in. But I also know it's going to change. It's going to change. It's not going to be the same thing every time. Yep. It's going to be something it's going to be a lot of the same, but there's going to be some different things and different discoveries in the process. So I don't know, man. It's much like mental health. It's constantly changing and developing and going this way or going that way, or you know, maybe we get on a path and we start to figure things out, and the message becomes a little clearer. I don't know. It's, you know, I always go in low and rise to the occasion.
I love it.
Right?
I love it. Well, I think that's kind of the, you know, when you're in the advocacy world, and we're not clinical, we're not doctors, we're not therapists. Our call to action on this is to storytell and to connect emotionally with people, you know, and that part of that emotion is, I mean, what emotion do you want to throw out? You want to throw out humor, throw out serious, you want to throw out like depth, you want to throw out, you know, so like for us, that's really what our whole purpose in this is to connect people who are at risk with the clinical world who can help, but there's this bridge in the middle of authenticity and advocacy and connection. And so our goal is to constantly be thinking about what audience are we in front of right now, and how can we emotionally connect with them with this story or with these stories. You know, I changed my story. I have my core story that I tell of who I am, but like I'm going to throw out different things depending on who I'm in front of, you know, and that's okay. I think to me that's kind of part of the fun of all of this, and that's why I think you and I connect so much, is because I come from a creative background as well, just in a different way. with music and in the church and preaching and all that stuff. And you're coming at it from being a radio host, a comedian, a creative. You write scripts for movies, guys. I haven't even mentioned that yet.
Yeah,
The man, he's got movies out there. I mean, it's just a creative renaissance, man. And to me, those are some essential tools that really just infuse well into the world of advocacy. And I think that's why it's just so exciting to me, finding people who are like you. We found ourselves in this weird place.
Yeah.
This journey.
I go back to that original statement. I haven't picked my jobs and vocations in life so much as they've chosen me.
Yes.
Stand-up was an accident. Radio was an accident. And this, working with OSPF and Man Therapy, was a happy accident.
Yes.
But now that I am part of this happy accident and slowly but surely moving forward with it, I've come to the realization, like, okay, as I've gotten older in life, I keep wondering, what are the final chapters going to be? I know there's still something left on the table for me to do. And yeah, there's a lot of creative stuff that I'm still doing and will continue to do. But something that, I can put my hands around a little bit and get some immediacy from it. And that's what I loved about stand-up. Was the immediacy of it. You go up there, you tell a joke, and you immediately
immediate feedback.
Yeah. Same thing with talking about Man Therapy and having these discussions. You can feel the immediate feedback and see if you're making a difference. You're not always gonna hit a home run. You're not always gonna impact like you want to impact, but it's immediate. And I'm like, okay, I'm convinced that this is kind of where I'm supposed to be right now.
Yeah.
And what I'm supposed to be doing. And that message becomes more and more solidified when I've met people like you in September, and the relationship that we've struck up and the friendship we've struck up talking about it. We talk about other things when we get together for coffee too, but we talk about where we're at and what we're doing and what we want to go. And I have gotten a lot of great advice from you. In respects to how to pursue things and focus on things. And it's helped immensely. But yeah, man, I think I feel so strongly about this program, and I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if it goes into a deeper, bigger, broader direction in respects to, the story and so forth and so on. But yeah, I will continue to be an ambassador for Man Therapy as long as they'll allow me to.
Because this is mission. I mean, I think mission work can sound, there can be connotations of, the church funding the missionary to Ghana or something like that. And that's where the word mission can kind of get, to me, it's like, nah, I need to strip that away. Mission to me this is our little corner that we found that we can make the world a better place and change the world. And we found our little thing and we want to pour ourselves into it. Yeah, sure. We have other things that we do and, but
you need other things.
Right. But I think that's it. Is like, I think, man, the more and more we can like dive into the mission of whatever this thing is, which is to us normalizing that it's okay to not be okay for and get that message out to men, and ultimately save lives. So tell me about, so for Man Therapy, what can a company do right now? So if a company is listening to this, what can a company do to implement Man Therapy or get connected to you? What can a company do?
I would tell a company, first of all, to go to mantherapy.org and just check out the site in general. There are ways for you to present mantherapy.org and all the videos there. Anybody that's tech-minded in that business. I'm not. Yesterday, Brad DeCamp had Man Therapy up on his PowerPoint presentation, and you can do that. You can share those videos. You can share the message that Rich Mahogany is sharing out there, and some of the videos. You can encourage your employees to take the head inspection test. Just put them on that path. Now, if that's a good start and you want to continue with that, you can contact me as an ambassador, and I'd be more than happy to come out to wherever you are. I told people, I said, I will talk to 2 I will talk to 2,000. I don't care. As you know, you give me an audience, I don't care about the size. Like I don't have a minimum or a maximum for that matter, in order to speak about something I feel very strongly about. My personal website is dinotripodis.com. Pretty simple. I'm on LinkedIn.
There you go.
Dino Tripodis on LinkedIn, Tripodis D on Instagram. There's a variety of ways to reach out to get a hold of me. DinoTripodis.com is one way to do it. LinkedIn, where we seem to be conversing with a lot of folks in our mutual industries, seems to be a good place to find me quickly.
It's a good little platform, little hub for people in the professional world, and I think, and that's it. Is like I want people to get connected to you. I want people to get connected to, and that's it. Like to me, it's. I keep coming back to people will trust a person before a resource. In our industry, that's what I see over and over again. I can go out, talk about 988 and all this stuff and therapy and check out your EAP and man therapy and all this stuff. They need a person to help advocate for those things. And that's why I want people to get connected, yes, to man therapy, but I want people to get connected to you too. So that's what I want to challenge companies. If companies are listening to this, like get connected to Dino. Start using man therapy, talk about it, get those videos in there, but then also reach out to Dino, have him out, have him out to do the one man's therapy talk. It's phenomenal. So what's on the horizon for you? What's coming up?
What's coming up in this field, in this world?
Sure.
For starters, I've got this great guest coming on the podcast on whiskey business. I believe in early July. His name's Paul Lawson. Amazing things. That's happening.
Whiskey business.
Either on a Tuesday or Wednesday of the week. That week, we haven't nailed it down yet. I hope his availability stays open. Because
I'll make sure that he's available.
Yeah, make sure. I'm finding that being an interesting chat. I've been talking to our mutual friend Sharon Saya about some opportunities to speak about man therapy. As a result of these conversations with these various organizations, other things have popped up. I'll be doing some stuff with NAMI up in Delaware, and some things down the line already filling up in the fall, September, the panel discussion in December.
Awesome.
But the day to day, the week to week, I'm wide open, people.
Yeah, man.
I'm filling my blanks. Even though it's very strange to be working with these two entities, but I'm doing work with Ohio Suicide, but I'm also going to be doing some creative work with Ohio Liquor coming up here soon, which is interesting because Tony told me that my name came up in that conversation too when they were looking to join forces with OSPF and find a way to get a message out there. And so if something happens in that world where I can assist them two ways, one with a creative project for Ohio Liquor, which is going to be a lot of fun. Tell you more about it when it actually comes to fruition here in July. But if I can find another way to help them out with Ohio Suicide, then yeah, let's do it. Let's do it because, I like the fact that OHLQ, while it's their job to sell spirits in the state of Ohio, they also care about who they're selling to and how they're selling and
the folks that they're selling it to.
The fact that they're doing their due diligence and want to be, smart about it and care who they're selling to and get a message of responsibility out there as well, which I think is
that's really cool. That's really cool. And I'm hoping there'll be a development on that and what that's going to look like too when I come on your podcast on whiskey business, because that just lines up perfectly.
Yes, it does.
It's going to be awesome.
Not to whiskey business. Everybody says, "Oh, I don't drink whiskey." You don't have to drink.
No, I don't think Tony did he on his
No,
episode?
He did not, and that left more for us. So there's nobody twisting your arm. It's just we call it a podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey, and the only running theme is that we have a different bottle at each podcast that I share or not share with my guests. But
if you got some Weller Red Label or any of those Wellers.
I have some Antique 107 left over, but we actually have tried to get a different bottle on each episode. So we've literally sampled and shared well over 250, 60, 270 different whiskeys over the course of the podcasting history. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be so much fun. Dino, thank you.
For what? For what? For this?
Thank you. Thank you for jumping on this little podcast and telling your story and talking about man therapy and just being you.
You're a great host. You make it so easy. It's so nice to be. It's so refreshing to be a guest as opposed to a host sometimes.
Yeah, right.
You know, because it's nice to answer the questions instead of always asking them.
Yes.
But thank you. I wish you nothing but success with this. I've watched some earlier podcasts with you. You do a great job. Yeah. You're a big warm hug.
I try to be a human warm hug as much as I can be in my life. But no, I am so happy that our missions just kind of collided and now we're on this like really cool path together. And I'm going to do everything that I can to get you in front of as many construction companies as I possibly can. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you do that, very large hard hat. I have a very large head.
A large hard hat?
A very large one. I have a very big head.
Big noggin.
Yeah.
A big Greek noggin.
Saying,
I'll work on that. I'll make sure that we get you an adequate sized hard hat and a vest and get you taken care of and get you on sites and get you in front of folks because I think it's important. But man, I appreciate you. I appreciate that you have stepped into this space and I love that we both have been on this crazy, weird, windy journey and how we got here. And we're just going to keep it going. So
yeah, man.
Thanks again, man. We're going to be talking here real soon.
Paul Lawson, thank you, brother. I'll see you soon.
All right, for all of you all listening, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Paul Lawson Chats. See ya.